All right, we are here again. Good evening, guys. It's 8 o'clock. It's the 3rd of December. We're going to do another webinar tonight. My name is Erik. Welcome. Everybody here on Meetup tonight, which is basically Zoom. You probably logged in through a Zoom link. We have people from, as I said, Meetup, Eventbrite. Now you might be watching tonight from Facebook. You might be watching from Instagram, YouTube. So we're live on all these channels. It's a pleasure to be here tonight and to have you guys. So, brief introduction. My name is Erik. I'm from Holland, so my English is not always perfect, as you might understand. I've been in Ireland for 2.5 years now. Been out of my country for more than 20 years. Lived in the Caribbean, Latin America, different places in Europe, and now since 2.5 years in Ireland. I like it a lot here. There's a lot of space. It's very green. The people are super friendly, so I'm having a good time. So, all right, so tonight we're going to talk about procrastination. And I would like to have kind of like a dialogue with you guys. We have the chat wide open. I'm making these gestures here. I have a laptop here right in front of me, so I can actually see who is online tonight. I can also see what you guys are typing into the chat. And I have a first request to get started, which is maybe you want to share with everybody here in the group, where are you from and why are you attending specifically this webinar? So maybe you want to share that. It's nice that we get to know each other. Where are you from? Maybe you're from the UK, maybe you're from Ireland, maybe you're from a bit more far away, another part of the world. Will be nice to know. So let's see, who do we have? I think Ankur is here. Ankur, I think you joined. I think you joined up in Meetup recently. Am I right? And you have a very Indian name. I just went to India myself, to Punjab a month ago. Absolutely loved it. Then we have Binny. Welcome, Binny. Coralie, Haley, welcome to you. Isa Mendes. Sounds very much like a Spanish name. Me defiendo en español. ¿De dónde vienes? Repuéstame, por favor. Then we have JG and Kyle. Okay, fantastic. Ankur is from Canada, Vancouver. All right, so I guess you're pretty much in the same climate as we are right now, with cold, wind, rain. Maybe you guys have snow already. We don't have that here yet. Undoubtedly it's going to come. Kyle, Northern Ireland, join tonight to gain knowledge. I like that, Kyle. Thank you very much and welcome. All right, guys, so keep on putting something in the chat. Don't hold yourself back. Don't procrastinate. I would almost say, put something there, so we actually become a little bit of a family tonight and become a bit familiar. Now, it's an interesting topic, and I'm going to take some data from this book tonight. It's called The Problems of Work by L. Ron Hubbard, which is a manual for work, and it's a manual for efficiency and getting things done in your life. It's an international bestseller, has been translated in many, many, many languages. I'll give you an idea. Here you got something like Ukrainian. Here we have Farsi for Persian people or Iranian people. We got Chinese here. We got, what else do we have here? We have Nepalese, looks a bit like Hindi. In other words, there's a lot of these copies available. By the end of the evening, I'm going to make you a very special offer, and maybe you want to avail yourself of that. Now, what is that book all about? What is it all about? Well, for example, it's all about on what does success depend? How do you handle confusion? How can you actually improve your control over life? Some people might think control is a bad thing when you think about the police, when you think about all these kind of control measures. But just imagine that you're not really controlling a motorbike, and you're not really controlling your car. Well, you're going to be in trouble. You need to be in control of this vehicle. So how about controlling a conversation? How about controlling a sales process? So what's involved? You'll learn all about that in the book. And then there's a chapter dedicated to how do you raise understanding and improve your communication skills, relationship skills with somebody else? How can you raise the understanding between you and other people? Then there's a whole chapter on who can you actually trust, and how can you know who to associate with. Then there's a chapter on how do you handle tiredness, how do you spark that vitality in you again, and the final chapter on the one who succeeds. So we're going to take a specific chapter from the book tonight, and we're going to delve right into it. Let me see, we got Isa. All right, Portugal, nice, fantastic. I actually have a Portuguese brother-in-law. So, very cool. I struggle to get things done, and I'm interested in learning how to be more disciplined. Fantastic. Thank you very much. We have JG hoping to get an insight in the topic. Lovely. All right, guys, let's see what we can do. So first of all, I'm just going to give you a derivation, the root of the word itself. So as you can see, I put a little bit of space in the word procrastination. Pro means, well, if you're a pro, you could be in favor of, you could be a professional, but it also means forward. And cras means tomorrow. So, in other words, forward to tomorrow. All right. Well, you're probably not surprised that this word goes all the way back to the Latin Roman era, 2,000 or more years ago. In other words, the Romans already had a concept of procrastination. They already had an idea that this is happening in people's minds. So what we're going to do tonight is, if we have the time, I'm going to give you a snippet of how the mind works, and also we're going to have a look at a thing that is really at play here. So the third idea that we're going to launch is this one. Life is a game. All right. So we're going to say life is a game. And that's actually chapter 5 in the book. And it might invoke some feelings of complete and utter disagreement. You might say, well, my life certainly is not a game, Erik. My life is, I'm getting up at 7 o'clock every morning, and I need to rush to take my shower and to have my breakfast. And then I'm commuting for the next hour, and if I'm lucky, I make it in time to be at work at 9 o'clock. And that's just where the daily grind kind of like starts or continues. Anywhere between 5 and 6, I'm done. Now I have to commute again for an hour or an hour and a half. Then I get home, but I still have to buy my groceries, do my dinner, and by the time it's 9 o'clock in the evening, I finally get to rest. And I've been up for 14 hours. And that's my daily schedule. Now, I wouldn't associate that with a game, because I don't see any pleasure in that. All right? And you're like, all right, well, certainly that may not sound much like a game. So, it is related though. It is related, and we're going to have a look at that, because in life and in games, in all its activities, you have common components, component parts that keep returning, keep coming back. So one of the things about games, one of the component parts of games is that a game has a purpose. Name any game you want to play, and you'll find there is a purpose behind it. There's a reason why you are playing this game. Okay? For example, you got a soccer player here. Got a nice ball there. And his aim is to get the ball into the goal. That is his purpose. That is what he wants to achieve. So there's a purpose there to get that ball into the goal. All right, now this has some similarity with your own life. If you look at work, for example, you say, well, my purpose is to have my income by the end of the month. So this guy, his purpose here, let's say, is he wants to win. He wants to win the game. He wants to win the soccer match. Maybe he wants to win a trophy. Maybe he wants to win a medal. Maybe he wants to win a ranking that would lift him up to the next category, play in a higher division. We take the game of life, we take the game of work, and you say, well, my purpose here is to make income. Dollars, euros, whatever it is, right? All right, so now let's imagine out of everything that life has to offer, it has to offer friendships, it has to offer the exploration of planet Earth, it has to offer so many things, all kinds of pleasure. And yet, a whole lot of people choose as their purpose, I want to have money. I'm not so much interested in my colleagues. I'm not so much interested in my customers. I'm not so much interested in the kind of work that we do. I'm not so much interested in the product or the service that my company delivers. I simply want to have my paycheck at the end of the month. All right. It could be a purpose. I'm not saying it's your purpose, but it could be a purpose. It's a purpose certainly for a lot of people. Now, so that person would be playing the game in order to have money as a purpose. This guy here is playing the game in order to win. It's a different concept, right? All right, so now if you have a purpose, then probably there's something else that you have in mind. There's something else that you have in mind. And the next thing you would have in mind is that if you're going to play that game at all, it will actually have to yield some freedoms. All right, so you know that when you work, you're going to have, let's say, 2,000 euro in your bank account. And now you struggled, you went through the daily grind, but at the end of the month, you had 2,000 euros. Or you had 3, or you had 5, or you had more, or you had less. Nevertheless, that money is now going to give you some freedom. And what does that freedom mean? Well, that means you can now go ahead and do something that you like. You can, for example, you can buy things. You can take your wife to the cinema. You can take your family on holidays. You can do the things that you want to do because you went through all these struggles. You had that purpose to make money, and in return, you actually got some freedom. Now, if we look at this soccer player, for example, what kind of freedom would he get? well, let's say the freedom, the result of putting all that effort there might be his status. It might be his ranking. Now, because of all the energy that he devoted to the game, it might actually give him a lot of credit with his bosses or trainer. In other words, it might give him a lot of goodwill. He's going to get all these things in return, and of course, he's going to have money too, right? As a result. But you can probably agree that the soccer player is not in there for just the money. Some are, but you can probably see that a lot of them are in there for the game. They actually enjoy the game that they're playing. They enjoy the excitement. They enjoy the challenges. They enjoy the difficulties. They enjoy the duress of the training, the exercise, everything that they have to go through. Cooperate with other teammates. And so he has got quite a complete package when it comes to elements that are involved in his game. So in return, he's going to get all these freedoms. When he's doing a good job, he might actually go to management and say, hey, I want to play in a higher league. Or, hey, it's our anniversary. I want to take my wife for holidays. I know there's an important match coming up, but actually I want to take my wife for holidays. And he might actually have earned these kind of freedoms. Good. Does that make any sense so far? Just checking with you quickly. Are you tracking? Does that make any sense? So a game would consist of a certain purpose. And if you achieve these purposes, it will result in some freedoms. Does that make any sense? All right. Kyle says, completely understood. Happy to hear that, Kyle. Okay, so thank you. Now, imagine that this guy here had all the freedom to just kick in these balls into the goal, one after another. There would be no keeper, no other players. He had all the freedom in the world to just keep on scoring. And he could just continue unlimited. Keep on scoring, keep on scoring, keep on scoring. Now, I'm asking you, if he had all the freedom to do that, no opposition whatsoever, would he still have a game? Would he still have a game? That is the question. In other words, if he had unlimited freedom, would he still have a game? Kyle says no. All right. Anybody else? What do you think, guys? If you have all that freedom, do you still have a game? Would that be a yes or a no? Don't hold back. Don't procrastinate. Put something in the chat. Don't feel shy. It's all for the fun here, guys. All right. Maybe Kyle just answered it. Yeah, Isa. Thank you very much, Isa. That's great. Indeed, no opposition. Nothing that is actually putting some counter force there. It's not a game. Now, you sometimes hear about these, let's call them spoiled brats. Spoiled brats, right? Like children from very, very rich people. The mom and dad are very rich. and the sons and daughters that just get millions dropped in their laps. You can see that quite often these people, they go completely psychotic. They go into luxury spending, they go into drugs, they go into sex, they go into some kind of a dramatization of unlimited freedom. And that unlimited freedom is actually spinning them in. This is very bad for your mental health, as just demonstrated here. Try to play a game just with yourself, have a ball, have a goal, and make as many goals as you like. You're gonna give up very, very soon because you don't have a game. In other words, there's one more thing that we need to really have a game. So, what do you think it is that we need to really have a game? What other element is missing in this picture? What do we need to really have a game? Well, we have a goal, that's right. Well, what if the goal is completely open? You can just kick a free shot and there's nothing in between, just you on the pitch. You have the goal there, you can kick in as many as you want. All right, Kyle, you got it. It's opposition. We're gonna give it a different name though. We're going to give it a little bit different name. I'm gonna put this guy a little bit lower. All right, so now we have a game consists of a purpose, freedom, and barriers. In other words, there is a purpose in that direction, but you have to overcome some obstacles. There's some barriers on your path that you will have to overcome in order to win that game. Now probably it starts to make sense. Let's say this guy here, he wants to score, but the game is really on if it's a challenge, if he can pass the opposition and then score. And it tells you something really interesting. And you've probably observed this in your life, that actually you get happy, you get that moment of happiness, this happy feeling, when you have overcome a barrier in the direction of something that you wanted to attain. So let's say you wanted to purchase something and you didn't have the money. And you came up with a plan and you said, you know what? I'm going to save, or I'm going to invest, or I'm going to use my money in this way. And when I do that cleverly, at some point, I will have accumulated enough to actually attain what I want. And then you have that feeling like, oh gosh, you know, it took me a whole year, or it took me 2 years, but now I finally did it. You overcame the obstacle of time. And maybe you had to work for it. Maybe you had to sweat for it. Maybe you had to do overtime for it. Maybe you had to convince your boss to give you a better job, but you somehow pulled it off. And now you feel this happiness because you were actually challenging yourself to overcome a barrier in the direction of something that you wanted to attain. And when you did that, you felt happiness. And that tells you that these barriers, these obstacles, they can actually be a bit of a nuisance, perhaps. Sometimes they're like in your way and blocking you. But on the other hand, they're kind of therapeutical to you because you have to become creative. You have to start using your mind. And you have to do something, you have to work it out to see, how do I overcome that barrier? Now, we just had a look at unlimited freedom, right? And as a soccer player, it would be utterly boring. Imagine that you had the unlimited freedom to create money. Some people on this planet have that. And by reports, they're not the most sane. All right? So let's say you have this unlimited freedom to do whatever you do. Well, you see that plenty on the internet and whatever. You can see that these people, they spin in. So now, let's say we're going to have an unlimited amount of barriers. There's hardly any freedoms to get, but all there is barriers. Barriers and barriers only. Take a country, a very communistic country, that wouldn't let its citizens escape, that wouldn't feed its citizens, that wouldn't provide any electricity or gas to heat their homes, that wouldn't provide any transportation to get them to work, and a whole lot of other things. I mean, it's like a Himalaya of barriers. And the person hardly gets any freedoms in return. It's equally cruel. It's equally cruel because with unlimited freedoms, you're going to spin in. With unlimited barriers, you will also spin in. All right? Does that make a bit of sense to you guys? Does that make a bit of sense? Kyle says, absolutely. Thank you very much, Kyle. How about Benny or Isa or JG, Jake, Sue? How about you guys? What do you think? Does this make a bit sense? So a game consists of 3 factors. You have a purpose. There's something there that you want to attain. When you attain that, it'll give you some freedoms. But on your way to get there, you actually have to handle and overcome the barriers. Isa, all right, makes sense to me. So, good, brilliant. Now, there's 2 things here that we're going to have a look at, which is that these barriers, sometimes you have this feeling in your mind that you're actually putting the barrier there yourself. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I'm lacking confidence. Right? So in the next half hour, we're going to actually have a look at that. Now, there's one more thing before we get there that I wanted to show you. And it's a very, very interesting thing. It might be a bit of an epiphany for you. But let's wipe this out. So imagine you get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and you commute. You start at 9, you end up at 5 or 6, you commute. Finally, by 9 o'clock, you're on the sofa again. Let's say from 9 to 5, you are dedicating all your time. Now, at the end of the month, you're going to get paid. So you're working daily, 9 to 5. You're doing 5 days a week. You're doing 4 weeks a month. You're going to do, let's say, 48 weeks a year. So you work every month, you work every year. And what do you get as a freedom? What do you get as a freedom? Well, you're going to earn. If it's work related, you're going to earn money. Okay, so let's say this is work and this is your game. And the game that you're playing is that you're an operator and you're producing ruddy rods and you're operating a machine and you're handling the materials and you're doing the services and you're just producing some kind of an output. And apparently you have that purpose because you're the operator. Or maybe you're a clerk. Maybe you have a desk job and you're behind your computer all day. And maybe you're handling bookkeeping, administration, maybe you're handling customers. And your job has a certain purpose. That is the purpose of the job, is to get a satisfied customer or to get a correct admin, right? So the barriers that you would have to go through is, well, doing the whole stack of work that is in front of you on your desk. Maybe a barrier for a salesperson is that he has to find new clients. He has to call one person after another, see if he can set up appointments, see if he can actually go there, set up an appointment, do a presentation. He has to go through these barriers. All right. So let's say that is your game. Your freedom is you now have some money. Guess what do people do? What do people do with that freedom? Might actually blow you away. What do people do with that freedom? They actually play another game. Now you may wonder, how does that work? You're working 9 to 5, you're making your income so you can actually go on holidays, so you can actually treat your wife, so you can actually decorate your garden. So you can ask yourself this question: are you actually playing the game that you want to play? Or is it that game that you want to play? Does that make a bit sense? It seems like we're kind of like bypassing this whole game of life. It's like we're on a detour. If you look at this soccer player, he's much more there. He's not working He's not working to get that and then do something else. He's much more directly involved in the game that he really wants to play. Now, this is the first thing to realize. If you are procrastinating, and let's say, all right, so I have this tendency that I'm postponing things at work. Well, do you actually like that kind of barrier? Are you interested in taking that barrier? Is that kind of barrier an interesting thing for you to handle? Are you actually able to back up the purpose? Is that something you want to go for? Or might it be like, well, you know, I'm in a pharmaceutical industry. I don't really care about what they do. All I care about is that I have a job and I get paid. Now, the company's purpose is going in that direction and your purpose is going in that direction. If it's not aligned, it's going to cost you a lot of energy. Okay? Does that make a bit of sense, guys? Crystal clear? All right. Okay, Benny. Keep interesting. By motivation. Yeah, exactly. All right. Jake, understood. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the feedback, guys. That's fantastic. So let's look at another factor. All right. So a game consists of purposes, freedoms, and barriers. Now let's say you want to play your game. You want to play your game. Maybe you want to be an entrepreneur. Maybe you want to achieve something for yourself. Maybe you want to have a nice fat wallet. Maybe you want to have a flourishing bank account. Maybe you have a big idea that you can materialize. Maybe there's just something that you have in mind that you really want to go for, that you would like to achieve. Your purposes. Now, what do you think in your mind you're most likely to get stuck in? In other words, have a lot of attention on. What do you think the moment that you're going to play some kind of an ambitious game, what do you think is going to take your attention? Is it purposes? Is it freedoms? Is it barriers? I'm just going to give them a number so you can type it into the chat. Is it number one? Are you going to have most of your attention on purposes? Or are you going to have most of your attention on freedoms? Or are you going to have most of your attention on the barriers? What do you think? When you have some kind of an ambitious project, something that you really want to achieve for yourself, something that you want to do, your game, where is your attention going to go? Most likely, it's going to number one, purposes. Number two, the freedoms that you get as a result. Or number three, the barriers. Okay. All right, so this is about even. Okay, thank you guys. Very good. So, the really able people amongst us, they'll keep their eye on the mountain. You know, somebody like Schwarzenegger, first a successful bodybuilder, then a successful movie star, then a person in government, like always keeping his eye on the mountain. He's actually very much focused on what is it that he wants to achieve. He's a competent person. You like him, you don't like him, that doesn't matter. It just shows competence. Now, most people will actually get stuck in this one. It's like there's something that you want to achieve, but you go like, I'm lacking confidence. I cannot do this. I'm not good enough. Every time I try, I get this anxiety feeling in my stomach. I have communication difficulties. I'm not good on the phone. I cannot really sell things. I need somebody else to do this for me. You're tracking, right? In other words, what we're looking at in our mind is we're looking at the barriers. Okay? We're looking at the barriers. Now, obviously there's two types of barriers. There's a real barrier and there's this imagined barrier. The real barrier could be, all right, well, you do have to deal with a person. And maybe for that you need communication skills. And that is a real objective barrier. If you don't know how to raise understanding between you and somebody else, well, you could actually read this book and you can have some knowledge about that. How do you deal with people? And no matter if a conversation turns out to be objectionable or whatever, you will have tools to handle it. So there's something really real. But then, what do you do when it's an imaginary barrier? And I'm going to give you an idea how this works, because it's fascinating right now. All the knowledge that you need to have in order to resolve your difficulties are actually right there. They're right there in front of you. They exist on planet Earth. You don't have to look for them. They actually exist. It's not psychology. It's not psychiatry. It's not psychoanalysis. It's not these self-help books. They might be motivational, it might be inspirational, but they basically just add more time. And in the end, they're not going to raise your competence, your confidence, or your IQ. Doesn't mean that there's no technology. Actually, there is. And I'm going to show you something. Okay, quick question. We have to speed up a little bit. Give me a quick answer. Do you think anybody knows how the mind works? Quick question, yes or no? Do you think anybody knows exactly how the mind works? All right, so definitely not, but definitely yes and no. All right. How would it be if in the next 10 minutes you ain't gonna get an answer how the mind works? And we're gonna do a snap and pop kind of drill here. I want you to have a look what you had for breakfast this morning. Just have a quick look. Where did you have your breakfast? Was it in the kitchen? Did you have it at work? Did you have it while you were commuting? Where did you have your breakfast? What did you have for breakfast? Now, you might actually see flashes of images. Your mind actually makes pictures. That was just an example. Now, I want you to remember a pet animal that you had. A dog, a cat, a hamster, a bird, and you probably get a flash picture again. Now let's take primary school. Just have a look at primary school. Maybe you can see the building itself. Imagine that you're in the classroom. You might see the colors of the classroom, the dimensions, where the windows were, where you were sitting more or less, where was the blackboard, the green board, the whiteboard, where was the doorway, where would you come in, where would the teacher sit? Again, you have pictures. That is your mind. Your mind makes pictures. First thing to know. There's a whole webinar dedicated to this. We're going to do the very, very quick version of it now. And it happens so that you actually find very nice data about that as well in this book. So your mind makes pictures. This is your mind. Pictures nicely recorded in time. Now, these pictures happen to be mental images. What does that mean? That means they're not tangible. You cannot touch them, but you can experience them. Just imagine for a quick moment that you are back at your parents' place again, and imagine that you're sitting in your favorite chair in the living room. You could probably tell, okay, if I'm sitting here, my TV would be over there. There's a window over there. There's a window over there. I have a kitchen in the back of me. There's a table in front of me. There's white walls. We had curtains over there. We had a fireplace over here. We had a stone floor or whatever. But you wouldn't know. You might not see the picture, but you would know. All right? So there's always been a thought, an assumption that these pictures were in the brain. Well, they're mental images. They're not in the brain. They're not closely related. You don't say the TV is in here, the door is over there, the kitchen is in the back of my head. There's a table here somewhere in the middle. You didn't do that. You would point about you. It tells you these pictures are 3D. They are three-dimensional mental images. All right. How do you use that mind? Well, very simple. Let's say you come home and you put your let's say you put your keys on a dresser and you move through the house and you realize it's actually time to go. So you put your hands in your pockets and gosh, where's my keys? And you're not going to roam around the house in all these different rooms to find your keys. What are you going to do? You're going to consult your mental images. You're just going to stand there for a moment, contemplate, and say, hang on, what did I do when I got home? And you get that picture. Say, right, I put them on the dresser. Your mind will tell you where you actually put your keys, right? Now, imagine this. We have pleasure moments stored in our memories, and we have bad experiences stored in our memories. Let's say here, There's some moment in time there where you were bitten by a ferocious dog and he really ripped open your arm. You lost consciousness, you were bleeding, you woke up in the hospital in this ugly scene of people in white uniforms around you. Your arms seem to be full with needles and kind of like syringes, hoses, what have you, and they were stitching you up. You were still in pain. There's a lot of pain in there. There's a lot of pain in that memory. So you have this memory stored as an experience, yeah? You have that memory stored as an experience. The author of the book actually talks about it in one of the chapters. All right, now, that happened many years ago. Doesn't affect you right now, you think. You're walking down the road, and you see a dog, and that dog has some similarity with the dog over here. Now let me ask you, what is going to happen? How are you going to respond? You have that bad experience, maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, doesn't matter. You have that bad experience with a dog. You see a similar dog. What is going to happen? All right, Kyle says you will trigger that past memory. Thank you, Kyle. That's great. Isa says, not get close to the similar dog. All right, yeah, you might avoid it, right, Isa? So, first of all, this is going to be triggered, just like Kyle said. This thing here has some pain charge, it has an emotional charge that is going to be reactivated. If you were in pain, if you were in anxiety or in fear here, that thing is going to be enforced again. And again, you're going to be in fear and you're going to be under stress. It's as if you actually take the moment into present time. Furthermore, you're going to put this in between and you're going to look through this memory at this dog. You're going to mix these two up. Now, here's where the mind makes a mistake. It confuses this dog with that dog. They're not the same. That's where your mind makes a mistake. It confuses this moment in time with present time. That's another mistake. Your mind shouldn't do that, but it is doing it. Then your mind actually says, this emotion here, you will have to have the exact emotion and behavior here, right now. That's another mistake. It enforces the same response, the same emotion, the same reaction. And you can't shake it. It just enforces that upon you. And you're going to look through a lens, assuming that this dog is going to be just as dangerous as that one. Does that make any sense? Kyle says yes. How about everybody else? Does that make any sense? All right. So here it is. In 5 minutes, you have the mind explained. Of course, you can explain more. I just want to show you how simple it is once it is actually discovered. This you will not find in any motivational book nor any psychology textbook. You will not find it there. Like I said, it doesn't mean it's not available. You can actually get this knowledge. All right, now you might say, well, Erik, that's all great, but I don't have any issues with dogs. I have no issues with dogs, so I don't know why you're bringing this whole thing up. All right. Well, I understand that. Let's replace this dog for another human being that was causing a lot of trouble. And now you have somebody here who somehow reminds you inadvertently, unconsciously, you're totally unaware, but that person here reminds you of that person there. Let's say it's your boss. Let's say it's your customer. Let's say it's your coworker. And you're already going to a defense mode or in some kind of a response that you would say, this is a bit weird about me. Here you have that precise mechanism that kind of like holds you back every time. Now, when we get to starting a new project, doing something that you really want to do, you will find out that you're going to run into this anxiety stomach feeling. Something there holding you back, causing you fear, causing you to procrastinate. Because is that fear, is that charge that is actually holding you back. Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, pay attention. Have you ever heard that we only use like 10% of our potential? Would that be real? Would it be real that you're just using 10% of your potential, or perhaps even less? What if you're not using 90% of your potential, but it's actually working against you? It's this mechanism. That is why you are procrastinating. If you want to know all about it and go into a handling, well, you should. Just imagine that that procrastination just stays with you. Somebody actually, let me see in the chat, somebody actually told me already, or told us already, I think, was it Isa? Let's see. Where are we? Let's see the chat quickly. Okay, Isa, struggle to get things done. Interested in learning how to be more disciplined. All right, Isa. So I hope this explanation helps you a little bit. Yeah. Now, first step is to understand the problem itself. That is already an immense step. Now I can tell you, you can also fix it. Here's the question. What would happen if that procrastination that you currently have in your system, what would happen if that doesn't resolve this lifetime? Just pop it in the chat. What happens if that doesn't resolve, if it doesn't get handled this lifetime? How is that going to work out for you? Okay, you become very ill or worse. Thank you, Kyle. Yeah, I would agree. All right. So Benny, Isa, JG, Jake, Sue, what do you guys think? Isa, all right, won't be able to finish my studies. All right, Benny, yeah, won't be able to achieve the goals. Exactly. Exactly. And it's not going to make you happy. I'm going to tell you a very, very quick story. The one thing that was like a phobia to me, I couldn't make phone calls. I escaped every corner of my life just not to make phone calls. I had this so much I would almost succumb just at the thought of picking up a phone and calling a customer. And it was driving me nuts. because you know you can be so much more. You ever had that feeling you could be so much better, that you really have a lot more potential? So it really makes you unhappy if you can't handle that. Now, for me, I've actually been working with this technology, and fortunately I can say it turned around to completely opposite side. I love to be on the phone right now. In the past, I wouldn't even imagine doing a webinar, not even in my own language, right? And nowadays I'm just talking for an international audience, and I love it. But it was utterly impossible in the past. It was the same mechanism. So actually, you can study this material, you can get the knowledge, and find out how you can undo this. And it's simple. It's just as simple as learning how to fix a car, right? Or learning how to bake a cake. Good. So, what do we have for you tonight? Is this? Are you happy with this presentation of tonight? I see it's 9 o'clock. Are you happy so far with this presentation that you got? Did you get something out of this thing? Like life is a game, that without barriers, unlimited freedom, that's not going to fly. But then there's the real barriers, and there's the imagined barriers you're running into. So like you're stopping yourself. Does it make any sense? Any sense to you guys? Did you get something out of it? Kyle, I'm happy with your comment. Great. All right. So, just keep this in mind. You're here because you want to handle your procrastination. Number one. Number two, you probably want to increase your potential and go in the direction of achieving your full potential. That's probably number two. Number three, you probably want to be more happy, because you probably know that if you handle that procrastination, and you're gonna be able to be more active, be able to handle life better, you will also be more happy. All right. So to that extent, we have come up with something that is going to help you. And if you don't want to help yourself, maybe this is the perfect Christmas present to help somebody else. I completely forgot to introduce Dita. She is with me. She's here every week. She's actually here to help people in the chat, and she's going to throw a link in there for you guys. We have actually come up with a nice promotion for you. That book is normally 17 euros. We have dropped the price for you tonight. We brought it down to 15 euros, including free shipping in the UK and in Ireland. And the link is, I think, is coming up in a moment. And as a gift, you're even going to get another booklet. I refer to it a little bit when you're overcoming obstacles in the direction of a goal. You're going to experience happiness. And the booklet is called The Way to Happiness. It's a beautiful little gem that we're going to actually add to it as a complement to your purchase. I think there is a time banner on top that will actually tell you how much time you have before the promotion ends. Like I said, what is this book about? Number one, on what does success depend? Number two, how do you handle confusions in life? Number three, how can you put yourself in better control over life? Remember that? How do you raise understanding between you and your fellow man? Number five, the next chapter is with whom should you be associating, with whom shouldn't you be associating? In other words, who can you trust? There's a chapter on that too. There's one on how do you handle tiredness and how do you regain that vitality. Finally, the one who succeeds. Like I said, it's available in many different languages. I just brought a few examples here, just as a demonstration. You can have it in Spanish, you can have it in Brazilian, you can have it in Zulu, you can have it in German, you could have it in Italian, you can have it in Arabic, you name it. And it's just all there. And the translations, ladies and gentlemen, are really fantastic. Okay, guys, we extended time just a little bit. Now, if you are on Eventbrite, if you have come here through Eventbrite, or if you've come here through Meetup, you may have seen that tomorrow we're going to do a special webinar, which is a series of three Wednesdays in a row. It's not going to be starting at 8 like today, but it's going to be starting at 7, and it's going to be from 7 to 8, 1 hour. And it's called The Mind Explained. And we're going to dive deeper into that subject. So you're going to, by the end of the 3 webinars, you're going to be very knowledgeable on how the mind works, and what exactly is holding you back, and what exactly you need to do in order to take away the limitations or the limiting factors which are holding you back. And I'm telling you, guaranteed, this is a brand new technology on planet Earth. It really works. You can increase IQ, you can increase confidence, you can increase competence. Forget what things and people have told in the past that you cannot change. It is not true. It can be done, and it is being done on a daily basis, planet-wide. So, at this point, I'm going to take some questions. Any questions, guys? If you're actually coming in or listening in through YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, I think Dita is monitoring these platforms. If you have a question, you can raise it there. It'll come to me. She'll pass it on, and just take a few minutes for that. In the meantime, this is for people who want to be successful. If success is not your ambition, if you don't want to do better in life, okay, that's fine. You don't have to change anything. Everything will just continue. You know, if you're already procrastinating and you're happy the way it is, well, keep it like that. You don't have to change anything. It will just go on forever. If you do want to change anything, you need to have some knowledge. You want to fix your car, you will not be able to do it without knowledge. If you want to fix your life, make it into a better life, improve conditions, you need to have some knowledge. This is an excellent starting point. Kyle says both books are packed with data. He owns both. Yes, Kyle, fantastic. Thank you. No questions from me. Thank you for the webinar. You're most welcome. Anybody else, guys? All right, Isa, no questions either. I thought your approach was really interesting. I appreciate the new point of view. Thank you. Through the thought of life is a game. Thank you. All right, Benny, no thanks. Okay, awesome. All right, guys, so we're gonna end off here. The offer is still there for another 20 minutes. Like I said, you can still get it without any shipping charges. It's free delivery. It's been reduced in price, so 15 euros if you're in Ireland, Northern Ireland, UK. If you want to buy it for yourself, or maybe a perfect Christmas present, tonight is your chance. Kira, thank you very much. Very interesting webinar. Really enjoyed it tonight. Much obliged. Me too, Kira. Lovely. All right. So, like I said, you may want to check in on Meetup, on Eventbrite. There's The Mind Explained starting tomorrow. It's going to be another nice webinar series. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for even being here during the extended time, and I hope to see you again soon.